Passwords are the first line of defense to protect information and accounts from unauthorized parties. The stronger the password, the less likely someone can figure out said password and gain access into those accounts. Updates to recommendations on password strength are fluid, quite honestly, based on new known cyber attacks, information learned from past cyber attacks, right? That being said, passwords should be unique. Don't use the same passwords across multiple accounts. Avoid using personal information in your passwords, such as birth dates, significant names, significant dates. Use mnemonic devices to help develop a longer, stronger password that does not have to be written down, because size matters. Use of a longer password and is stronger than a short password. Use as long a password as permissible on the site that you are using. Okay, at least 8 characters, but depending on the site, it could be up to 64 characters long. And because of that, think of passphrases. Don't use famous ones, things that you can just like everyone can quote off the top of your head. And like I said, use those mnemonic devices to help remember those passphrases so you do not write it down, right? And consider using a password manager to help generate and store complex, unique passwords for your accounts. Usually the recommendation to change a password is 60 to 90 days. However, the National Institute of Standards and Technologies, which is NIST, is shorthand, actually discourages routine password changes, quite honestly, due to human nature. Instead, it encourages longer, more complex passwords, and it recommends changing a password once a breach has been identified. But that only is helpful if your organization is regularly screening these passwords against lists of previously compromised data. So it's a balancing point. I would say for most of us, changing 60 to 90 days is what is still in the norm and what we do. But consider talking to your IT, asking if there's ways for them to scan what's been previously compromised and see if there's any additional risks that your company can alleviate by being proactive in changing passwords if it looks like it's time to do so. Quite honestly, that's your system administrator. The system administrator can configure system passwords management either globally or per user, and can have everything. There's so much data points that they can put for as to length, what's required as far as special characters, things of that nature. How long it takes before you need to set up a new password, how many failed login attempts you can have until you're locked out of the site. All things like that should be discussed with your system IT manager, administrator, so that you can determine the best ways to work for your company and works for your business model. MFA is multi-factor authentication. It's a layered approach to securing data and applications that require a user to present a combination of 2 or more credentials to verify your identity. It's typically known as something you have, like a text with a code, an authentication application, something you are, your fingerprints or your face, and something you know, which is your PIN or your password. And it's a more secure way to access your accounts, because even if one credential gets compromised, the chances of both being compromised are far less likely. There are many ways MFA, multi-factor authentication, is used. Okay, well, I'm going to go from the strongest method to the weakest method. The strongest method is what's called FIDO, Fast Identity Online Authentication, which is used by major browsers and phones. It relies on biometrics such as your fingerprints, your face, voice recognition, and it's built on cryptography. It uses what's akin to an encrypted electronic key to gain access to accounts and systems. So if you think about how you get into your phone, either use your thumbprint or your face, that's what that is. Another option is a push notification. So instead of what you do is you push your phone, like a code to your phone. It pushes notice to ask permission to gain access instead of just a code. So it's granting access, not giving you a code like a 6-digit account that you have to put into your login. It's then the user either accepts or denies the request. There's a third one is the Authenticator app. That generates a multi-factor authentication login to the user's phone. When the user gets prompted for the code, the user then goes to that application and enters the code that appears. So it's still more secure because you're going to an actual code that's been downloaded and used your credentials to even allow you access to that application. The least secure method involves logging into the account, and then the service sends the email that you have on file or the phone number that you have on file, a code that can be used to access the account. This really should be the last option. You should only use it if that's the last option, quite honestly. Any form of MFA is better than no MFA, but obviously as emails are prone to get compromised, if you're having an email sent to a vulnerable application in itself, it opens up the possibility of others intercepting that code. Well, for personal use, it's easier when people realize that they already use MFA. Their bank accounts more than likely have it already. It's standard option for major email platforms such as Gmail and Yahoo. And quite honestly, in the business model, don't give them an option. Employees should not be accessing business networks and email accounts without employing MFA or VPN. So if you have any remote workers, anything of that nature, they should not be accessing your system without those minimal security requirements.